What starts as a dangerous game of corporate espionage becomes something deeper, more complex, and devastatingly beautiful. But when trust is shattered and loyalties are tested, both must decide what they're willing to sacrifice for love. Hello, beautiful souls. Tonight's story will take you on a journey where hearts are tested and destinies collide. The journey starts now. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead like dying insects, casting harsh shadows across the empty office floor. Sophia Rivera's fingers moved across the keyboard with desperate precision, each keystroke echoing in the silence. The security breach had shattered her focus 20 minutes ago, leaving her system exposed and her heart racing. She traced the digital footprints through lines of code, following a ghost through her company's most protected servers. Whoever this was, they weren't some script kiddie playing games. This was surgical, professional, terrifying. The elevator chimed at the end of the hallway. Sophia's blood turned to ice. The building was supposed to be empty. Footsteps echoed across the marble floor, deliberate and confident. She minimized her screens and grabbed the nearest object she could find, a heavy glass paperweight. Her breath came in short, silent bursts as the footsteps grew closer. Ms. Rivera. The voice was deep, controlled, with an edge that suggested danger wrapped in expensive cologne. We need to talk. Sophia spun around, clutching the paperweight. A man stood in her doorway, silhouetted against the hallway lights. His suit was perfectly tailored, his posture commanding, but his face remained hidden in shadow. How did you get in here? Security should have security works for me now. He stepped into the light, revealing sharp blue eyes and features that belonged on magazine covers rather than corporate boardrooms. I'm Daniel Kingston, and you've been trying very hard to avoid meeting me. The paperweight slipped from her fingers, hitting the floor with a sound like breaking glass. Kingston Technologies, the company that had been circling her startup like a shark for months. You're the one who's been trying to hack us. Daniel's smile was cold and beautiful. I prefer to think of it as a job interview. And you passed. Get out. Sophia's voice shook despite her efforts to sound strong. Whatever you want, the answer is no. I want you, Sophia. Your mind, your skills, your company. He took another step closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, see the exhaustion etched around his eyes. And I'm not leaving until you hear my offer. The city lights twinkled through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting everything in an ethereal glow. Sophia realized she was trapped alone in a building with a man who could buy and sell her life with a phone call. One conversation, Daniel said, his voice softer now, almost vulnerable. Give me 10 minutes, and if you still want me to leave, I'll walk away and never bother you again. Sophia stared into those impossible blue eyes and felt something shift inside her chest, something dangerous and electric. 10 minutes, she whispered, but I'm recording everything. Daniel's smile turned genuine for the first time, transforming his entire face. I wouldn't expect anything less from the woman who just traced my hack back to its source in under 20 minutes. As he moved closer, Sophia realized she had just made either the best or worst decision of her life. 3 weeks later, the coffee shop had become their battlefield disguised as sanctuary. Steam rose from Sophia's untouched latte as she watched Daniel across the small table, his presence consuming all the oxygen in the room. You can't keep doing this, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Meeting me here, sending flowers to my apartment, showing up at my favorite places. People are starting to notice. Daniel leaned forward, his eyes never leaving hers. Let them notice. I'm tired of pretending I don't think about you every second of every day. The confession hit her like a physical blow. For 3 weeks, they had danced around each other professional meetings that turned into personal conversations. Business dinners that felt like dates. Stolen moments that made her forget he was supposed to be her enemy. This is insane. Sophia pushed her chair back but didn't stand. You're trying to destroy my company, and I'm sitting here like some lovesick teenager. I'm trying to save your company. Daniel's voice turned harsh, desperate. Do you have any idea how many vultures are circling Innovate Solutions right now? Technova made an offer yesterday. Meridian Corp is planning a hostile takeover. You're bleeding money, Sophia. Your investors are getting nervous. The words hit like bullets. Sophia felt the color drain from her face. How do you know about our investors? Because I know everything about you. Daniel reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. Your coffee order. The way you bite your lip when you're thinking. How you haven't slept more than 4 hours a night since your prototype launched. The scar on your wrist from when you were 8 and fell off your bike trying to keep up with the older kids. Sophia jerked her hand away. Stop. I can't stop. His voice cracked slightly. I've never felt anything like this before, and it's destroying me. Every board meeting, every business decision, every moment of my life revolves around protecting you, and you won't let me. Protecting me? Sophia's voice rose, drawing stares from other customers. You're a corporate raider, Daniel. You buy companies and strip them for parts? That's what you do. Not this time. He pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. Look, the email that appeared made Sophia's world tilt sideways. A purchase agreement for Innovate Solutions. $50 million. Her name listed as CEO in perpetuity. All employees retained. Complete creative control guaranteed. This is impossible, she breathed. No one gives away this much control. I'm not no one. Daniel's eyes were raw with something that looked like pain. Sign it, Sophia. Let me protect what you've built. The coffee shop around them seemed to fade away. Sophia stared at the contract that would save everything she'd worked for. Offered by the man who had somehow crawled inside her chest and made himself essential to her breathing. What's the catch? She whispered. Daniel's smile was broken and beautiful. You'll have to trust me. The word trust hung between them like a loaded gun. Outside, rain began to streak the windows, blurring the city lights into watercolored dreams. I need time to think, Sophia said, but her voice sounded far away, even to herself. Sophia. Daniel's hand covered hers again, warm and steady. There's something else you need to know. About why I really started watching your company. About what's coming. Before he could continue, his phone buzzed with an urgent message. His face went pale as he read it. I have to go. He stood abruptly, leaving cash on the table. Whatever you do, don't go home tonight. Stay somewhere public, somewhere safe. What are you talking about? But Daniel was already heading for the door, his expensive suit disappearing into the rain-soaked night. Sophia sat alone with the contract and a growing certainty that her life had just taken a turn toward something she couldn't control or understand. The warehouse smelled like rust and broken dreams. Sophia's wrists burned against the zip ties as consciousness returned in brutal waves. The concrete floor was cold beneath her cheek, and somewhere in the darkness, water dripped with metronomic persistence. She's awake. The voice belonged to Marcus Webb, her business partner and oldest friend. The man who had co-founded Innovate Solutions in her garage 2 years ago. The man she trusted with her life. Marcus. Her voice came out as a croak. What's happening? Where are we? Footsteps echoed across the warehouse floor. Marcus emerged from the shadows, his familiar face twisted with something she had never seen before, guilt, mixed with grim determination. I'm sorry, Sophia. I really am. He knelt beside her but didn't untie her bonds. But you were going to ruin everything. I don't understand. The zip ties cut deeper as she struggled to sit up. Marcus, please. Whatever this is about, we can fix it. No, we can't. His voice broke slightly. Do you know how long I've watched you get all the credit? All the recognition? You're the genius, the visionary, the face of our company. I'm just the business guy who keeps the lights on. The words hit harder than any physical blow. That's not true. We're partners. Partners don't keep secrets. Marcus pulled out his phone, scrolling to a photo that made Sophia's blood freeze. It was her and Daniel in the coffee shop, his hand covering hers, their faces inches apart. Partners don't sleep with the enemy. I'm not sleeping with him, but you want to. Marcus stood, pacing like a caged animal. And he's using that. He's been using you from the beginning, Sophia. Everything you think you know about Daniel Kingston is a lie. The warehouse door opened with a screech of protesting metal. Daniel stepped inside, his perfect suit replaced by dark tactical clothing that made him look like a stranger. His eyes found Sophia immediately, and she saw something flicker across his face relief, followed by something that looked like regret. Let her go, Marcus. Daniel's voice was cold, controlled. This wasn't part of our agreement. Our agreement? Sophia's world tilted sideways. The betrayal cut so deep she could taste blood. You're working together? Marcus laughed bitterly. Working together? He owns me, Sophia. Has for over a year. Every financial crisis our company faced, every investor who suddenly backed out, every deal that fell through it was all him. Orchestrated to make us desperate enough to accept his help. That's not entirely true, Daniel said, but his eyes never left Sophia's face. I may have influenced some decisions, but I never wanted it to go this far. You destroyed my company just so you could swoop in and save it. Sophia's voice rose to a scream. You made me trust you. You made me feel what I made you feel was real. Daniel took a step closer, his composure cracking. Everything between us was real, Sophia. The business was just business. Just business? She struggled against her bonds with renewed fury. Just business doesn't involve kidnapping. That wasn't my idea. Daniel's eyes flashed to Marcus. This was never supposed to happen. Marcus pulled out a gun, his hands shaking slightly. She was going to figure it out eventually. She's too smart, too stubborn. And now she's seen too much. The warehouse fell silent, except for the steady drip of water. Sophia realized with crystal clarity that she was going to die in this place. Betrayed by the two men she had trusted most in the world. Marcus, don't do this, Daniel said, his voice carefully calm. Put the gun down. We can find another way. There is no other way. Marcus's finger moved to the trigger. She was never going to sell to you willingly, and I can't keep pretending to be your inside man. It ends tonight. In that moment, Sophia understood that everything she had believed about her life, her company, and her heart had been built on lies. Daniel's muscles tensed as he prepared to move. Marcus, if you pull that trigger, I will make sure you spend the rest of your life in a place that makes hell look welcoming. You'll have to catch me first, Marcus replied. And Sophia saw his finger begin to squeeze. The gunshot shattered the silence like breaking glass. Sophia screamed as Daniel threw himself forward, tackling Marcus to the concrete floor. The gun skittered away into the darkness, its metallic scraping echoing through the warehouse. Both men rolled, throwing punches that landed with sick thuds against flesh and bone. The gun? Daniel shouted as Marcus caught him with an elbow to the ribs. Sophia, get the gun. But the zip ties held her fast, cutting deeper into her wrists as she struggled. Blood ran warm down her arms as she watched the two men who had defined her world destroy each other in front of her. Marcus managed to break free, scrambling toward the weapon. Daniel lunged after him, catching his ankle and sending him sprawling. The impact knocked the wind from Marcus's lungs, giving Daniel precious seconds to reach the gun first. It's over, Marcus. Daniel stood, the weapon trained on his former ally. Blood ran from a cut above his eye, and his breathing was ragged. Untie her. Now, you really think she's going to forgive you? Marcus laughed, the sound hollow and broken. You think any of this changes what you did to her? I know it doesn't. Daniel's voice was quiet, devastated. But she deserves to live. Marcus pulled out a knife and cut Sophia's bonds. She rubbed her raw wrists, her mind reeling as she tried to process everything that had happened. The betrayal, the violence, the terrible truth about the men she had trusted. Sophia. Daniel turned to her, keeping the gun pointed at Marcus. I need you to know something before this ends. Everything Marcus said about the business manipulation, it's true. But what happened between us wasn't part of the plan. I never meant to fall in love with you. The confession hung in the air like smoke. Sophia stared at him, this beautiful, dangerous man who had orchestrated the destruction of her life and somehow made her heart beat faster with a single glance. Love? Her voice was barely a whisper. You call this love? I call it the first real thing I've felt in 10 years. Daniel's eyes never wavered from hers. And I would burn down everything I've built to keep you safe. How touching, Marcus said, but his voice was strained. Too bad it's too late. The sound of sirens began to wail in the distance, growing closer. Marcus smiled grimly. I made some calls before you arrived, Kingston. Told them about your little off-the-books activities. Industrial espionage, kidnapping, murder. You've got about 3 minutes before this place is surrounded. Daniel's face went pale. You called the police? I called everyone. FBI, SEC, local law enforcement. By tomorrow morning, your empire will be in ruins and you'll be in federal custody. Marcus's smile was vicious. Did you really think I'd go down alone? The sirens were getting closer. Sophia could see flashing lights reflecting off the warehouse windows. Daniel looked at the gun in his hands, then at her, and she saw something break behind his eyes. Sophia, listen to me very carefully. He moved toward her, his voice urgent. In my jacket pocket is a flash drive. It contains everything: financial records, communication logs, proof that Marcus has been embezzling from your company for months. That's why he really wanted you dead. Not for me, but because you were getting close to discovering his theft. What are you talking about? Sophia looked between them, confused. Tell her, Marcus? Daniel's voice was deadly quiet. Tell her about the $2 million you've been skimming, about the fake invoices and the shell companies. Tell her why you really needed her out of the picture. Marcus's face crumpled, the last of his pretense falling away. I was drowning, Sophia. Gambling debts. Bad investments. I never meant for it to go this far. The betrayal was complete now, total. Sophia felt something inside her chest turn to ice as she realized that both men had used her, just in different ways. The flash drive. Daniel pressed the small device into her palm. Give it to the FBI when they get here. It will clear your name and save your company. What about you? She asked, though she wasn't sure why she cared. Daniel smiled sadly as the sirens grew deafening. I'll be fine. I always land on my feet, but Sophia could see the lie in his eyes. Whatever was on that flash drive, it would destroy him as completely as it saved her. The warehouse doors burst open, flooding the space with harsh light and shouting voices. Daniel dropped the gun and raised his hands as armed agents swarmed inside. Sophia Rivera. One of the agents approached her cautiously. Ma'am, are you injured? She looked at Daniel as they cuffed him, his eyes finding hers across the chaos. In that moment, she understood what he had really given her: not just evidence or salvation, but the truth, even if it meant sacrificing himself. No, she told the agent, clutching the flash drive. I'm going to be fine. But as they led Daniel away, Sophia realized that fine was the last thing she would ever be again. 6 months later, Sophia stood in the pristine lobby of Kingston Technologies. Her reflection multiplied infinitely in the polished chrome surfaces. The company was hers. Now every asset, every patent, every ghost of Daniel's empire had been transferred to her after the FBI investigation concluded. The flash drive had contained more than just evidence of Marcus's embezzlement. It held the complete record of Daniel's feelings for her, documented in private journals he had never intended anyone to read. Plans abandoned because they would hurt her. Business deals rejected because they might damage her company. A careful architecture of protection built around her without her knowledge. Ms. Rivera? The security guard's voice pulled her from her thoughts. He's ready to see you now. The federal prison visiting room smelled like disinfectant and broken dreams. Daniel sat behind reinforced glass, wearing an orange jumpsuit that should have diminished him, but somehow only emphasized the sharp intelligence in his eyes. He looked thinner, older, but when he saw her, his face transformed with something that might have been hope. They picked up the phones simultaneously. You came, he said, his voice crackling through the poor connection. I almost didn't. Sophia's hand trembled slightly as she held the receiver. Part of me wanted to let you disappear forever, but you're here. I'm here because I read everything on that drive. Shh. She leaned forward, her breath fogging the glass between them. The journals, the personal notes, the real reason you started watching my company. Ow. Daniel's eyes closed briefly. Sophia, your sister. The words stopped him cold. Elena Kingston. She died in a car accident 5 years ago because some tech company's faulty navigation. Software gave her wrong directions in a storm. You've been trying to find ways to make technology safer ever since. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truth. My privacy software wasn't just interesting to you because it was profitable, Sophia continued. It was personal. You saw Alina in what I was trying to build. She would have loved you, Daniel whispered, his voice barely audible. You both wanted to fix the world, make it better. I couldn't save her, but maybe I could save the work that might have saved her.
Ow.
Tears blurred Sophia's vision. So you destroyed my life to protect my dream? I destroyed everything. Daniel pressed his palm against the glass, including the one thing that mattered most to me. Sophia stared at his hand, remembering the feel of it covering hers in the coffee shop that first night. The prosecution offered me a deal. If I testify against you, they'll reduce your sentence by 15 years. Hope flickered in Daniel's eyes, then died just as quickly. You can't do that. Your testimony would contradict the evidence you provided. It would destroy your credibility, maybe even implicate you as an accessory. I know. Sophia placed her own palm against the glass, matching his gesture. That's why I'm not taking the deal. Sophia, no? I have to, what? Sacrifice you the way you sacrificed yourself for me? She shook her head. I've been running Innovate Solutions in your companies for 6 months. Do you know what I've learned? Daniel waited, his eyes never leaving her face. Every decision you made, every business move, every acquisition it was all designed to create something better. You weren't a corporate raider, Daniel. You were a guardian angel with a hostile takeover strategy. The ghost of his old smile touched his lips. That might be the most beautiful thing anyone has ever said about me. I'm rebuilding everything, Sophia said. Your company's my dream, this mess we created between us. I'm calling it Elena's Legacy. Technology that protects people instead of exploiting them. Can't use her name for I can, and I will. Because I love you, Daniel Kingston. I love your broken heart and your guilty conscience and your catastrophic way of caring about people. And I'm going to spend however long it takes to build something worthy of the sacrifice you made. Daniel was crying now, tears streaming down his face as he pressed his forehead against the glass. I don't deserve you, I know, Sophia agreed, matching his posture so they were as close as the barrier would allow. But love isn't about deserving. It's about choosing. And I choose you, even if you're behind glass. I choose us, even if it's complicated. I choose the truth, even if it's painful. The visiting time buzzer sounded harsh and final. I'll be here next week, Sophia said as she stood to leave. In the week after that, however long it takes, Sophia. Daniel's voice stopped her at the door. The coffee shop, where we used to meet, Tony asks about you. He says your usual order is still waiting. She smiled through her tears, understanding the message. Some things were worth waiting for. Some love stories were worth the long fight to reach their ending. Outside the prison, Sophia looked up at the sky and felt something she hadn't experienced in months' peace. Not the kind that came from resolution, but the kind that came from acceptance. She and Daniel would never have a simple love story. But maybe simple was overrated. Sometimes the most beautiful things grew in the spaces between broken and whole, between guilt and forgiveness, between what was lost and what could still be saved. The end.